Hello, welcome to Stellium Investments. My name is Magnus Brandforce. I'm an independent investment advisor with Commonwealth Financial. I've been licensed since 1992. Basically been an investment advisor since before the internet. So with almost 30 years of service and thousands of clients over the years, I want to discuss a subject that I have quite a bit of experience in, and that is working with aging investors. Basically, understanding what your future will entail will allow you to better prepare. And this is aimed not just at people that are aging investors, but their children. No doubt some people watching this video may have affluent parents that are getting into their late 60s, early 70s, and might need some help. And as one of the children of that kind of an investor, you have a vested interest in making sure that your parents are, being well taken care of, and that they're doing the right things, and that they are protecting themselves financially, and hopefully able to carry forward a financial legacy to children and grandchildren going forward. So how do you ensure that? So the overview here is I'm going to discuss 5 major subjects. I'm going to discuss estate planning, healthcare, accounting and tax preparation, lifestyle, and then finally I'll discuss my big part of the puzzle, which is wealth management, asset management, investment management. So let us begin with estate planning. So part of the aging investor process is going to be that you really need to make sure that your estate is planned financially, and that incorporates many different items. And depending upon your net worth, it can be very complex, or you may own a complex set of investments. And for example, if you own real estate in multiple states, you own a business, a farm, things like that. Investments are also part of the estate planning process for high net worth situations that can involve very advanced planning. So, but it begins with having the proper titles on accounts. For example, you may have opened an investment account many years ago, not thinking too much about it, and you never put your wife's name on the account. Well, if you were to die, your wife's going to have to go through probate, unless you've made other arrangements. So that's one that I've caught before. I've run into people before that have gone to lengthy processes of setting up a living trust, but never followed through on the instructions by the attorney to go and change the title of the account and provide the documentation so that it indeed is a legally valid living trust account. The other areas are beneficiary designations. We all know that on an IRA or an insurance policy, we name beneficiaries. And a living trust names beneficiaries and discusses how assets will be distributed, and so does a will. But did you know that you can actually name beneficiaries on bank accounts that are joint tenants with rights of survivorship? You can name beneficiaries on individual accounts, which might even be more important, so that it avoids probate. That process is called transfer on death beneficiary designation, and I've recently made a video about that. If you want more information about that, very simple, free opportunity to protect your loved ones from going through the unnecessary probate process to transfer over liquid assets. Estate planning could very well include creating a living trust where you have advanced planning and also the ability to maximize your ability to pass on assets without state or federal estate taxes. You may be charitably inclined, and there are tax advantages for creating things as such as charitable trusts. They may be a living thing or a trust that is funded at your death. Special needs trusts. You may have children or grandchildren that are unable to care for themselves, and you maybe have set aside money to supplement their care. And so an attorney can help you with setting up something called a special needs trust. You will probably at some point in your life need a power of attorney. somebody that can help you as your cognitive or physical ability declines or your interest level wanes, or simply to protect yourself from making potentially bad financial decisions. You may want to bring in one of your children or a good friend, if you don't have children, as a power of attorney. Legal work. Much of this here is simply very complex and should not be done without the assistance of a properly licensed and very qualified attorney. And that is somebody that is interested and willing to not only put all this stuff together with you, but to create a relationship with you, because creating a living trust or estate planning documents is not a one-stop, one-time thing. Your life is going to change over the years, and the tax laws change, so having a relationship with this attorney is important. Executing the plan. You are going to have to, on your own, go out and incorporate your plan with the various financial institutions you're doing with. That's generally something that is up to you, not the attorney. Even with a simple will, in the drafting of a will, there are obligations upon you to follow through. Then there is going to be the regular review and maintenance of your estate plan as you age and as things change in your life. People will pass away. People will get divorces. You will have more children, more grandchildren or great-grandchildren. And so the maintenance of this plan is terribly important. You are also going to want to truly work on finding a good executor for your estate. And that is something that most people choose, one of their children that they trust and, lives nearby. But what if you don't have somebody like that? You may need to bring in a friend. Another issue of estate planning can be late life marriages. After a divorce, you remarry, or after you lose your spouse, potentially you get remarried, or you have some sort of a living arrangement. In order to protect your assets for your children and grandchildren, there may be need for special legal work done to protect the interests of your children and grandchildren should you pass away while being in a second marriage or more, or in some sort of a living arrangement. You may at the same time, when you pass away, want some of your assets to continue with your surviving mate until they pass away before those assets go to your children or grandchildren. As you can see, this is a very big and complicated subject. So this is going to be a big part of your life from, potentially the late 60s until you're deceased. So that concludes part one, estate planning. So let's talk a little bit about health care. At 65, you're going to qualify for Medicare. You're going to need to, pick out some Medigap coverage, those kinds of things. A financial advisor like myself is going to have printed materials and things like that that might be of assistance in helping you sort through that drama. As a financial advisor, generally speaking, we are not involved in that kind of health insurance, but we generally, as a service to our clients, have research or materials on it that we can give you to help you in making an informed decision about the future of your health care. We generally, as financial advisors, offer long-term care insurance along with life insurance. Long-term care is very, very expensive. It's enough to bankrupt even a fairly wealthy person. It will only get more expensive, and it's probably only going to get more expensive as more people get long-term care insurance. Deciding whether you need the insurance or not is a complicated matter. You're going to want medical power of attorney. Somebody might be your financial power of attorney, but similarly, you need a medical power of attorney. If you become incapacitated, somebody needs to make healthcare related decisions for you. Not to be confused with what's called a healthcare directive. A healthcare directive needs to be drafted up so that doctors will not excessively perform on you, or will perform on you based upon what your wishes are. Do you want life-sustaining treatment while in a coma? Do you want nutrition and drugs if there's not much hope of your recovery. Would you like to die a natural death? There's many different parts of your waning days that will be addressed in a healthcare directive. Cognitive and physical decline. We are all going to, at some point, physically decline. And cognitive decline, in my non-scientific but lots of experience approach, generally speaking, people display signs of Alzheimer's by the age of about 73. If a person isn't exhibiting signs of Alzheimer's by about the age of 73, 74, you're probably in the clear. There is dementia, which strikes people when they get into their 80s and 90s or 100. It's a different thing. But cognitive decline can also be your interest level in a degree too. There comes a point, typically in the late 70s, early 80s, where people, like all of the estate planning that I talked about, it starts to become a bit of a burden. It's a lot of work, and they run out of steam. This is obviously a very good time to have a power of attorney helping you or doing it for you. So it's an important element to acknowledge, because we're all going to get to a point where we decline. Finally, in healthcare, if you're married, one person is probably going to pass away before the other. You're dealing with the death of a spouse. And the death of a spouse can be taxing emotionally and on time. The better prepared you are, the better you can probably deal with this. And so you can see the healthcare area is an important one. Going on to number 3, accounting and tax preparation. It is absolutely critical that a reasonably astute investor has a accounting professional. The idea of doing your taxes by yourself, I think, is in almost all cases foolish. There is simply too much information to know as a professional career, along with the fact that every year the tax code is changing, it's morphing, it's advancing, it's becoming progressive, it's becoming retroactive. It is a jumping bean, and it requires a good professional to stay on top of that. And you are far better off paying a modest sum of money to somebody that really knows what they're doing. There are also strategic investment strategies to minimize taxation, or to simply avoid excessive paying of taxes. It can be tax-free bonds, it can be taking tax losses to offset taxable gains, it can be funding retirement plans, it can be any number of things that a person can effectively use to manage and minimize taxation. Doing tax work is also something that has to be done on a quarterly basis, if not annually. And so having a financial professional doing that for you and working with your estate planning team and your financial advisor will allow you to focus on my next subject, which is number 4, your retirement lifestyle. Some issues that you may face in retirement are that you'll come to realize that the house that you've lived in for so long is just way too big for what you need, or it doesn't really suit your needs anymore. Maybe it's a 2 or 3 story house and you want to live on a one story house. It may need an extensive amount of work. How are you going to pay for that? How are you going to get that done? Should you remodel or should you move? You may decide too that, as part of enjoying your retirement, you are going to buy a vacation property, or you're going to buy a motorhome and travel around. You will no doubt in retirement focus more of your time on hobbies or finding hobbies for yourself. I do suggest that most people find and hire a good yard maintenance crew for two reasons. One, it allows you to enjoy your free time more, and also it avoids injury. Yard work is a leading cause of injury for retirees. In retirement, chances are people will approach you that know you and ask you to volunteer or to do this, that, and the other thing. I do suggest that once you have retired from your job, don't let yourself be talked into any volunteering or part-time work or things like that until you've had at least one full year to enjoy your retirement and allow you to think straight. But lots of people in retirement want to pursue a dream, and maybe they want some part-time work or they start a small business. So lifestyle is also going to be a big part of your life as an aging investor. Finally, we'll get to what I primarily do for clients, and that is wealth management, investment planning. As you transition from your late work years or early retirement years to these more serious years now of, say, late 60s, early 70s, you need to realize that you may be leaving the growth business in a way, but on the other hand, you can't entirely do so. You are going to wind up being a growth and income investor. The future is unknown. The future of costs. As you can imagine, all the things that I've talked about, that costs money. And over time, it could become very expensive. We don't know how much that's going to cost. So your money needs to grow, and at the same time, it needs to generate income for you so that you can sustain a good lifestyle. In the beginning of your retirement, you may not need that income. You may choose to continue to reinvest. But I personally generally set up investment accounts so that clients get cash flow and let them choose to reinvest it. A lot of them do. There may come a point in time, though, where your cost of living gets high enough where you do need to live off of the interest and dividends of your investments. With wealth management and investment planning, prudence, you can't make it back. If you go into retirement thinking you're a financial guru because over the last 10 years you made some great investments and have made a ton of money, I will tell you this, a lot of investors in the late 90s thought that they were financial geniuses with their own money. They retired, and 6 months later the NASDAQ and the dot-com bubble had crashed and they had lost 80% of their money. You can't make it back. So there's maybe 1 in 1,000 people that I've met that are truly qualified to be do-it-yourself investors at a later stage in life. There's going to be a change in risk level. A lot of people become comfortable with investing a certain way as they are going through their 40s, 50s, and 60s even, but it's going to change as you get into more senior years. And the markets are volatile enough as they are. I mean, there's been several instances in my career where even a fairly conservative portfolio has declined by as much as 45-50%. In extreme cases where people have overloaded themselves with gross investments, even a diversified portfolio, we've seen declines as much as 80%, as we did in the bursting of the growth and dot-com bubble of the year 2000 that took 2 decades to recover from. So as an investment advisor and a retiree, cash flow is important. Well, cash flow, there's interest and there's tax-free interest and there are dividends. Each of them have different taxation to them, and there's different way of generating returns back to you for you to live on that may, need a certain amount of knowledge to generate it to you so that it is a tax efficient, intelligent distribution method. At 70 and a half, you are also going to have to start taking your required minimum distributions, and generally speaking, a professional like myself is setting up a monthly or annual automatic plan that deducts taxes and automatically deposits money into a bank account to satisfy the IRS minimum required distribution method. Wealth management is also about fraud protection. When you're dealing with a financial advisor, you have an additional layer of somebody that is protecting you from financial fraud. Investors that are doing much or most of this by themselves can be very susceptible to fraud. And it also goes back to estate planning. Senior citizens that are getting older become fairly vulnerable prey to all sorts of people trying to pry money from their hands. And I've seen it in my career a number of times, and it's sadly something where people need to be protected from people that they don't know, but also people that they do know. I am, in most cases, the trusted advisor and the quarterback for this total plan. I generally meet with clients 2 to 4 times a year, which is more than what a person would meet with these other professionals. And so I tend to assist the other professionals with information and basic planning so that they can do their jobs more effectively, and help prepare the client's expectations for what needs to be done in these areas. So as you can see, an aging investor has a lot of things to keep an eye on. By building a good team of people, which might include your family as well, you will more than likely have a much better chance of success in not just your happiness, but your financial success. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please forward it to friends and family that might be of interest of this video, and be sure to hit the subscribe button on my YouTube channel. Until next time, we'll see you later.